The Great Lakes Racing Truck Series makes its way into the heart of the Pocono Mountains in preparation for its 8th race of its 11th season. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Split Second Broadcasting's coverage of the Darkhorse Motorsports 175 at the track dubbed the Tricky Triangle Pocono Raceway. Drivers for the last couple of weeks, they've been chasing the back bumper of Daniel Nanny, but tonight they're going to be chasing this racetrack. 3 entirely unique corners, all with different banking, all with different approaches, center of the corners, and exits. I'm Seth Cole, alongside my broadcast colleague Ross Brockman. And Ross, here tonight, there's so many different facets that we talk about when we come to a track as lengthy as Pocono. We're going to be talking about tires, we're going to be talking about track position, we're going to be talking about setting up the truck for multiple areas of this racetrack. This is maybe one of the most unique tracks on the circuit.
Yeah, and it's 3 unique corners, all very different. I think every driver has maybe their favorite corner and their least favorite corner, and you dread the one and you look forward to the other. But it's the thing I'm going to talk about tonight is the perfect phrase I kind of came up with this weekend. It is precision in slow motion. That's how I would describe Pocono. It's a slower speed corner, but you have to be perfect, and I'm excited to watch these drivers navigate all 3 of these corners throughout this race tonight.
A lot of passing that takes place at Pocono is not necessarily you having a stronger truck than the driver in front of you. It's you willing to capitalize on a mistake if someone has a slide out your windshield. Daniel Nanny, as mentioned, they've been chasing him for the last 3 weeks. He's gone to victory lane 3 times in a row, and he nabs the pole position for tonight's race here from Pocono. And he's going to start alongside of a driver that's been in the conversation, it seems, every week. But Ashton Lawson still looking for that first win of season 11.
Yeah, row 2, we have a couple great qualifying runs for Jared Darling in the 1 truck and the 92 of Michael Senzi.
The battle for the overall points lead continues as Matthew Weeks dropped to 2nd in the standings last week. He's only a total of 5 points out of the points lead, and he shares that 3rd row with Zachary Henry.
Starting 7th, we have a new driver tonight in the 54, Justin Vandermarl. I think I got it. We're gonna need some practice with that one. And alongside him is the 53 of Jared Duda.
Josh Robin going to complete the top 10 back there in row number 5, alongside of a driver that seemed to get his footing back last week. That's the defending champion, Hunter Madalinas.
11th, a guy that's typically running up near the front will have to make his way through the top 10 if he plans to do so again tonight. It's the 71 of Christian Peterson. To his right, the number 18 of Matthew Durr.
That very noticeable purple number 6 Toyota of Jackson Sims going to be on the inside of row number 7. Alongside of him, the 98 of Robin Durr.
Couple of Great Lakes staples here in 15th and 16th. Shane Neiswanger in the 49 and the 00 of Aiden DuPont.
Winner from the season opener at Daytona, Spencer Owens, will be on the inside of row number 9. Alongside of him, 3-time Truck Series winner here at Pocono, Elliott Henderson.
Starting 19th, a guy that we've seen have some moments of speed this year, and I think should be strong tonight, the 24 of Tony Manji. To his right, the 41 of Justin Mons.
Nathan Jump going to start pretty deep in the field. He'll be back in row 11 alongside of Nicholas Coressel.
Starting 23rd is the 93 of Evan Snyder, and starting 24th, the 63 of Eric Kep.
Couple of drivers that have been doing well in points lately. Brent Kingcott in the 5, Hunter Brittle in the 10. They're going to be back making up row number 13.
Row 14, you have Hunter Brittle in the number 10 truck, and then Kurt Gibson in the 45.
Your top 30 going to be completed with the 28 of James Shiflett and the 13 of Lewis Woodall. And your final row, Rod Fastenau and Blair Neabone. 32 drivers get ready to take the green flag here tonight. We're racing at the Tricky Triangle. Down into one of the faster corners here. In turn number 1, double wide, 3 wide, trying to get yourself set up for the long pond straight. Little contact right there in that 3 wide situation.
Yeah, it's so tight off of these corners here, and you see even a couple drivers getting the wall down the backstretch. Just trying to set yourself up. You want to be as far to the right here and arc your way into the corner, but a little tough when everybody's side by side or even 3 wide trying to navigate that tunnel turn.
We were still 3 wide there. That was the number 54. Oh, trouble! Josh Robin around. Jared Duda collected. Another driver, but that's Robin Durr was pinned up against the outside wall. At least 3 trucks collected here through the tunnel turn.
Yeah, we saw it on that initial, the first run off of turn 1 down that straightaway. It's, you're kind of in different spots trying to choose your lanes down these straightaways. But when you're all packed up, like, you got to be careful to not clip somebody. And I think that might be the situation we had here after the tunnel turn down the short chute here. Just trying to navigate where the best lane is, maybe even changing lanes and just running out of room.
Saw the 45 of Kurt Gibson there as well, collected up, making his first start of the season. Here's a look as maybe a little bump gone wrong there. That was Jared Duda into the back of Justin Vandermarl, and it was just on from there. Josh Robin got turned up the racetrack, and outside line blocked nowhere for that 98 of Robin Durr to be able to go.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like a bump draft and just kind of surprised the 53 maybe. Or just didn't line up as well as he thought it would.
Board with Jared Duda, and yeah.
Just a checkup maybe.
Whew, Matthew Durr just squeezing through there in that 18 truck.
I think he, maybe get a little damage there, but I think he'll be fine. That's not much, to worry too much about. But ultimately, all these trucks, considering everybody backed up, I'm surprised we don't have more with significant damage.
Big shot there into the back. This is on board with Matthew Durr, and see how he's working that wheel left, right, left, right, left, right. Just trying to figure out, do I go low? Do I go high? Where's the lane open for me? Tough break there for Josh Robin. Just an innocent bystander collected up there, hooked in the right rear. Gonna tank slap the driver's side of his machine, and to your point, I didn't see necessarily anything there as far as the impact that would look like damage that would have you off the pace or certainly bring your race to an end, but mention about the fact that this is a racetrack where track position is key, and that's a lot of track position given up for the drivers collected. Here we see the 45 of Kurt Gibson not actually caught up in the incident, actually had a little meeting, little landscaping there with the infield grass as he got low to avoid the incident.
Yeah, you look at these drivers. I mean, you talked about it on the on the pace laps about it. Elliot Henderson, a 3-time winner here at Pocono. Great Lakes Truck Series only raced here 4 times. Elliot won the first 3, and last season was the 4th visit to Pocono ever. And Jared Duda won the race. So a guy that we maybe expected to contend tonight, he for sure has a little bit of damage at least, and of course lost that track position you're talking about. So yeah, I think that's a guy that I was kind of thinking we might need to keep an eye on that ran really good here in the past.
Well, the good news for him is that the night is young. Still plenty of time to be able to work his way up here to the front, and of course as well, talk about all the different aspects of Pocono Raceway. One of them is if we get into long green flag runs, pit road plays a huge pivotal part into losing and gaining track position during a cycle of green flag trips onto this rather lengthy and rather spacious pit road as well.
Yeah, so it lends itself to potential for fuel mileage. We talked about it at Indy even too, the ability to pit here and not lose a lap. So if you're a front runner and you want to short pit or run a little bit longer and hope for your fresh tires later in a run, that you can potentially do that and not gamble as much as you would at some of our smaller tracks or some of the faster intermediates, just because it's such a big track with a long lap time. So I think any of the drivers in the top 5 or top 10, if it's your turn to pit, you can pit and potentially stay on the lead lap Fuel window tonight is about 27 laps, so this caution here isn't, necessarily putting us into any windows yet. But another caution here, in the next couple laps, and you potentially could start looking at potentially making this on a one stop from there. But we'll see. It's I think ultimately tires are still going to be very important, just to have the maneuverability to get through the pack and make up time, especially on a longer run.
Well, if a track is given a nickname, it is going to be difficult for the drivers. Dover knows the Monster Mile, Darlington the track too tough to tame. This is known as the Tricky Triangle because, as we mentioned in the pre-race, it is 3 uniquely different corners. Turn 1 has the most banking, 14 degrees of banking fashioned after Trenton Raceway, 8 degrees of banking through the tunnel turn where we had our first incident. That's fashioned after Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then here, as they make their way into the final corner, turn 3, the lowest amount of banking, 6 degrees fashioned after the Milwaukee Mile. And a lot of drivers look at this lowest bank corner as maybe the biggest trouble spot because you look for grip, you look for stability, and you normally don't find it, particularly in that particular corner. And that's the money corner, especially on the final lap.
Sure. Back to green here. We'll see what if we can keep it clean this time and see him fan out a little bit on their way down to turn 1.
The 24 of Tony Manchi taking a look there to the inside 3 wide. That very wide, very spacious front straightaway is just so inviting for drivers if they get a good restart to take it double and 3 into turn 1. They'll get it settled out at least towards the front here. Only some double wide racing. Still 3 back here though. Manchi still on the bottom. Near contact. There goes one around. That's Justin Mons. He's going to clip Hunter Brittle. Brittle's going to save it. And I believe somehow that was only a 1-truck incident through the tunnel turn.
Yeah, I think we had multiple drivers save it. A great job by all of them being able to hold on to it.
Brittle and Aiden DuPont nearly went around. They were on the top side of that 3 wide. I believe the only driver that spun may have been that... may have been the 20, was it the 20? No, just 41 of Justin Mons. And even he, I think, might have actually saved it. Might have had a little assistance from the wall, but he didn't fall all the way to the tail end of the field. He's actually still being scored in the 21st position.
We'll have to see also the 4 of Rod Fosnaugh. He was running 28th, and I look up and he's back to 31st. So I don't know if he maybe checked up early for this and just tried to bail out of this, or something happened back farther. But yeah, that was kind of synchronized sliding through the tunnel turn, and all of them saved it.
Yeah, it looked like the 41 of Justin Mons had his eyes out the windshield. He was trying to set up for a pass, and as he pulled down low, the 3 wide behind him, Tony Manchi was getting ready to drive it deep into the corner to get a twofer on DuPont and Brittle. And next thing you knew, he was into the back of the bumper of the 41 truck. But that was 3 tremendous saves there by Mons, Brittle, and DuPont.
Yeah, it's right on board.
See right here, this is the 41 of Mons up ahead. He gets a run, and he's going to go low on Spencer Owens. And not expecting that late move, that kind of went into the braking zone of Tony Manchi, leading to the contact. But man,
I feel like that tunnel turn is a turn where you want, especially if you're on the outside and you're by yourself. Like Mons was able to get to the outside, get clear there. You kind of want to set up your exit, and I think he's gonna, check up a little bit, or let off a little earlier than, where. The 24 on the bottom, he's thinking the opposite. He's got 2 trucks to his outside. He wants to drive it in there a little deeper. So I think that's kind of a product of 2 trucks coming together there with 2 different speeds and entries into the corner.
Saw back right behind Tony Manchi with that onboard was the 11 of Nathan Jump. Those 2 had a little exchange last week, and they found themselves in the same vicinity here, making their way through the tunnel turn. Always seems to work out that way. It's interesting too, because that's the second time that we've seen them attempt 3 wide through the tunnel turn. Normally, the wider corner is turn 1. 3 wide you can usually do there. By time we get to the tunnel turn, it narrows up a bit. So normally double wide is even risking it at that point. 3 wide is, I don't know. They've been willing to risk it here though on the initial start and restart here. We'll see now if maybe we rein it back just a little bit and try and see if we could just go double wide through that second corner of this racetrack.
Yeah, turn 1 is we see them kind of typically fan out on the front stretch if they get a run on a restart, and then you go into turn 1 and there might be checking up. There might be, next thing you know, you're 3 or 4 wide, or you get a run on the drivers in front of you, and you use it exiting turn 1, and you kind of all of a sudden, about halfway down that backstretch, you start realizing we have the tunnel turn next. Like, this is not the place to do it, but it's just so easy in turn 1 to try to gain 3-4 positions. But you almost need another corner to complete the pass, and it makes the tunnel turn kind of a funnel in the end. So yeah, a lot of these drivers, you got to remember that corner is always looming, and if you can't complete the pass through 1, maybe it's best to wait until the next lap where you can maybe use turn 3, turn 1, and then clear them off going into the tunnel turn. But it takes a lot to complete a pass here, especially when you're all bunched up together.
Second caution of the night, getting ready for our second restart. You see the lights out atop the iRacing Pace truck. Daniel Nanny says, hey, I'll be more than happy to lead all these laps here, keep my truck out in front, as he'll get ready to put us back under green with Michael Sensi to his outside. Row 2 is going to find Ashton Lawson and Jared Darling, with Zachary Henry and Hunter Madalinas going to make up row number 3. Looks like at this point in time, despite these 2 yellows, everybody that was involved in the 2 previous incidents, they're still running. They're all on the lead lap, and maybe a little bit here too of us seeing like this early aggression is the fact they know they got a couple of off weeks coming up here. We're off for the 4th of July next week. There's a special event that's going to be run on July 8th, so we don't resume points racing until July 15th, a couple of weeks from now, when we get to the paperclip short track of Martinsville. So everybody thinking, it's an opportunity here before we go into that little bit of an off week, to that off season, to be able to nab a checkered flag, and I'm mid-pack. I got to get up here to the front.
Yeah, you can't score points the next couple of weeks, but you can tonight. So, but they also got to know you can't lose points the next couple of weeks, but you can tonight. So hopefully they see both sides of the coin here for the rest of this race. Yeah, a handful of drivers topping off too, just being a little bit different on the fuel load. I think that'll be just interesting. Give you maybe an option or two to run long if you want.
Green flag back in the air. You saw just before we went green, our live point stands. It was 5 points. Christian Peterson over Matthew Weeks coming into tonight. They shared the 5th row here on this restart.
And Daniel Laney's done a great job every start here, and 3rd time's the charm to do it again and get away. But yeah, nice job by Michael Sensi. Yeah, it looks like maybe that Darling getting in the wall a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit on the outside off of turn 1.
Doesn't look like it lost him any momentum, though, as he'll stay side by side with Zachary Henry for 4th. They'll take that battle into the tunnel turn. Top 3 single file. Look at Tony Manji going to work around the top side as Elliot Henderson, a little slide there. And now Cho goes to throw a block on Spencer Owens. We're going to be 3 coming down here into turn 3. It's the lowest bank corner. Looks like we're going to get through. That was Lewis Woodall way up there on the top side.
Good for them to all go 3 wide through a corner they hadn't really made at speed yet. So just with the quick caution. So nice piece of driving by everybody. Get through there and get this rolling now through 1 and 2 for turn 1 for the 2nd time at speed.
Around the 15th position right now, that bright yellow 11 of Nathan Jump to his outside. Evan Snyder in the Red Bull 93. And that bright green machine is Hunter Brittle, who had that big save under that 2nd caution right there through turn 2. He's all over the back bumper of Jump. I believe that's Brent Kincott with some new colors here tonight. The Mobile One sponsored number 5 in this battle as well.
see most of the, top, 15, or, I guess top 13 are all single file. So when you're, Jump and Snyder and these guys battling here, you're gonna move back a little bit, just racing each other and letting the pack kind of get away as they're all single file and being able to use the entire track to make time.
See, now everybody, for the most part, back to around the 17th position, have gotten themselves all single-filed, and now it's all about generating momentum. You mentioned it. Setting up a pass and completing a pass takes place on two entirely different ends of the racetrack. So now we're looking ahead. We're seeing the truck out in front of us, seeing where their weaknesses are, where our strengths might be, and trying to see if we can capitalize on that to first generate the run and then attempt the pass.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, look out there.
Contact made! Is that Josh Robin, I believe, that's gone around the front straightaway?
I think the first attempt to save it was 90% saved. And I think he was going to have another attempt to save it again, but the gamble would have probably meant, trying to save it across traffic. And I think he kind of saved some of his peers there by ultimately kind of spinning it down low. It looks like. I think if he tried again, he maybe would have saved it, but he also maybe would have collected another driver or two.
Turn 3 was the turn that normally, when we come to Pocono, is the trouble spot, and looks like it has played its part for the first time here tonight. It was hard to tell there initially if they were only double wide or 3 wide off of this corner. That's the 89 of Christopher Melton making his first start of the season, and you're going to see... Oh, yeah, he's going to get the wall. Does Melton. Bounces off of the passenger side of Josh Robin, and I thought Josh might have actually only made contact with the right rear of that truck, but some pretty good impact with the right front as well.
Yeah, fourth a couple times, and ultimately going to be able to keep going in this race. We've seen it the first couple cautions, most not a ton of damage. The hitting the wall is where we're probably seeing the most damage as they come off the corner, and yeah, a little front nose damage too there that might hurt a little bit, but yeah, this is an interesting time now with this caution. I talked about it, with that last one potentially getting closer to the window. I would say we're right there. You're another lap or two away from being able to potentially make this on one stop. It'd be close. You'd have to run it all the way dry, pretty much twice to make it on one more stop from here. But I think there, if you're any driver in the back half of this field, you might want to come down here and fuel up and maybe even grab tires now, just because even though we've only run a handful of green flag laps, you have some extra sets to be able to grab some and potentially gain some track position here.
Somebody heard you on that strategy. The 11 of Nathan Jump came down pit lane after he was back around 17th, 18th position at the timing of that caution. And we'll keep an eye on him as he'll try to make his way up through the field with those fresh Goodyears. You saw there moments ago on that replay, we were on board with the 28 of James Shiflett, and I was wondering, saw a lot of smoke after the contact with Melton in the outside wall, and wasn't sure if the 18 of Matthew Durr pulled down low in reaction or if he got the wall as well, but those great camera shots there, courtesy of our producer Jeff Johnson, showed us that indeed the 18 did pancake the wall off of turn 3 as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Nathan Jump coming down pit road. I think he came down when the pits were closed originally. So it looks like now, because you said it that like, hey, Nathan Jump listened to me, and I'm like, but nobody else did. I'm kind of surprised, and now here we have a whole host of others that came down and Jump once again coming down. I think he's going to be falling to the back here because of pitting with the pit road closed.
Brad Keselowski vibes from the Cup race this past Sunday. Same deal. Came down a closed pit road, had to start at the tail end of the field, and maybe much like Keselowski, Nathan Jump, a fast enough truck, had enough time here in this race to be able to work his way back up. I mean, as I mentioned, he was outside of the top 15, battling around with Hunter Brittle, Evan Snyder, Brent Kincott around the 14th to 17th position, but this is going to lose him a ton more in terms of track position, and he's going to find himself having to go back on offense when the green flag drops. And to your point, as we saw a lot of drivers coming down pit road, there's going to be a lot of drivers around him on equal footing now, so that's going to make the task even tougher.
Yeah, and looking at the drivers that did pit, we had Zach Henry, who was running, up in the top 10. Christian Peterson, Tony Manji, some of our faster, top 10 points guys, drivers trying to race their way into the chase here. And then Nathan Jump is a guy, obviously that has won in this league, won championship in this league. So, early mistake here that he's going to have to race his way back into. I just looking at the rest of the drivers. We talked about Jared Duda got in that first initial incident. This kind of reset here. He's going to be one of the, top 5 on this strategy of coming down and getting tires. So it kind of gives him a chance to maybe reset here and get back going.
There's an ongoing debate. A lot of drivers that are good at the road courses find success here at Pocono, and a lot of drivers will say that Pocono is maybe the closest speedway version to a road course that we get. In terms of road course racing, a lot of times when it comes to strategy, you actually work the strategy from the end of the race to the beginning. With what we saw here with drivers coming to pit road, are we doing the same thing in terms of strategy here? We're basically working the strategy from back to front?
Yeah, I think so. I think that ultimately you always have to have, everybody maps out their, game plan as far as pit stops that, from this restart, we're going to go green the rest of the way. Now, that's pretty rare, right? Like, it definitely is very rare that happens. But if it does, that you're set in that situation. Then the rest of it is, if there is a yellow, you make the decisions as those happen. So I think pitting now basically gives you the opportunity to know that, like, you could potentially make it on one stop if we go green here. So I like that these guys are doing that. They got, especially with the amount of tires, they're able to get some tires here and maybe even gain some track position. So if they get another caution and have to pit with everybody else, it might, cycle them right back to where they were anyways. But the idea of just being able to have options, I like this spot that these drivers are in. The ones that are up here, this top 15 that didn't pit, they're hoping that we go another 10-15 laps and then they're able to get another caution or potentially go through green flag pit stops, get the caution just as they're getting their green flag pit stops to keep that track position. So a couple little wishes that maybe these guys up near the front are going to have to hope for and pray for here on this run.
Well, Daniel Nanny, who's won the last 3 races in a row, will get us back green. Michael Sensi starting to his outside, and give some credit to that 92. Fast race truck, qualified well, ran well last week, jumped up 3 spots in the stands, 18th at points coming to this one. He's getting eaten up into turn 1. He got kicked to the top side of a 3-wide situation as Ashton Lawson and Hunter Madalinas got great launches.
And we've seen the 3 wide multiple times so far tonight through 1, and now pretty much double file with these drivers, and Jared Darling down to the inside of Sensi. Sensi's been able to make a couple positions almost every restart, this time kind of going backwards a little bit. Just, I think, product of what lane you're in.
Also brushed the wall there off of turn 1, that 92 truck, so keep tabs on that as they're really fanned out back there. Mid-pack, I think for a brief moment they might have been 4 wide. They were definitely 3 wide around the 20th, 21st spot.
Yeah, we're be exciting to see where some of these drivers with the fresher tires are able to make ground. If it's something that is pretty immediate, as you see Christian Peterson down on the inside here, he's one of the lead drivers with the tires. Going to take it 3 wide down the backstretch here.
53 of Jared Duda right behind him. And we're going to go 3 wide into the tunnel turn once again. Peterson with those freshies going to be able to get a 2-fer here. He'll get Snyder, he'll get Kingcott. Duda will look to do the same here now for the lower bank turn 3. Zachary Henry there as well in the 12.
Pushing each other through with these fresher tires to clear the traffic. It's going to get really tight off of 3 there. You could tell that was going to happen, just the way they were exiting the corner there.
I believe that might have been Brent Kingcott in the 5 that got the wall there off of 3. It's all about choosing the right lane here as well, right? Because we saw Peterson get through pretty well. Same for Duda. You see maybe a little bit of a struggle here on the inside for Zachary Henry. But look at that green 24 of Tony Manji. He chose to try and go around the outside. Now he's kind of boxed in, going to force his way down to the bottom there with Matthew Durr in the 18.
Yeah, it looked like they were right on the edge of being 3 wide there, and I think none of them could agree that they were. And I think we're getting really tight there with Durr. You gotta watch out with the trucks on your right there. He's closing the door and on a couple of these drivers on this lap.
Eric Kemp was in the middle of a 3 wide there for a moment. May have forced the 89 of Melton up into the outside wall. Now it looks like maybe we're starting to settle out back here. They'd already settled out amongst about the top 15. This is where all the mayhem's been going on as the fresh tires are trying to work their way forward.
Yeah, not really moving forward as much as I thought they would. I think it's just a product of though we ran 13 laps total. A lot of them were under caution, so these drivers up near the top 15 haven't used up their tires as much as maybe I was originally thinking. So I did also notice on that last shot we had, Nathan jumped, he made the mistake, and now he's kind of just riding behind the pack here. So I don't know if that is a strategy here, if he's waiting for another yellow, or if he maybe be saving a little fuel right now just to make sure he can make it. Like I said, I think we were right at the fuel window, pretty close. And I think anyone that pitted on that last caution, you're going to have to make sure you run this truck all the way dry, and not just in this run, but in the last run to make this window. So I think that who knows what that strategy is, but I like it. I love doing something different and preparing for the next run during this run.
Well, hey, mention about the fact we got 2 weeks off at the conclusion of tonight's race, and then we've got 6 more weeks of racing before we're going to be putting together the drivers that will battle in the playoffs. And for Nathan Jump, he comes into this race in a tie for 11th place. That'd be the first position out of a playoff spot. He's tied for 11th with Brent Kingcott. So hey, opportunity here to kind of mix the strategy up, do something a little bit different. I'm with you. I like that. Be outside the box, force everybody else to not only think about their own strategy, but then think, hey, what is that 11 doing back there? Get in their minds.
I think there was multiple times in my Great Lakes career and driving these trucks in this series where I was here just to win, and it was like, okay, well, my best chance to win right now, if I'm running 30th like Nathan Jump, is maybe to save my stuff for the next run, or try to save some fuel. So I like it. I love the idea. It gives us other things to talk about. But still watching some of these drivers trying to move up 54, looking to the inside of the one here, Jared Darling.
Great first start here for Justin Vandermeerel in that Red Bull Chevrolet Silverado, as now he'll look to driver's left. That's Matthew Weeks in the 56. And you saw just moments ago our live point standings there showing a 1-point advantage for Weeks over Christian Peterson. Let's make sure everybody is aware these two drivers are on entirely different strategies. The 56 is not pit yet. The 71 came to pit lane under the last caution. He's back in the 13th position trying to slowly work his way forward. So right now, even though we have a dead tie for the overall points lead, it is an entirely different strategy on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and I think we've seen Matthew Weeks do a great job of being able to take his tires the longest into the run and be able to gain positions. And here we're now getting some green flag laps in, and it seems like he's moving forward and trying to gain some spots. Going to look again maybe to the inside of the 54, but no, he's going to hold off.
Going to run a little bit higher here through 3. And this is something that you're normally going to see here as well. You'll see drivers running in line on the straightaways because the truck in front of them is creating the draft that allows for faster speeds on the straightaway. Also helps with saving a little bit of fuel as well if you're that draftee, or the drafter rather than the draftee. But then you're going to see right here, look at the case of the 56, the 54, and the 49. 3 trucks, 3 entirely different lines. Because you get great downforce when you're in the draft on the straightaway. You run in somebody's way going into the corner, the downforce is gone. If you're able to straddle a different line, you get clean air to the nose and your downforce comes back.
It's
Whoa!
got some. Yeah, look out, Christian Peterson maybe clipped the apron a little bit there. You said you got the multiple lanes. The only one that doesn't really is that tunnel turn. You want to kind of run the bottom, but not that far to the bottom, and clip the apron and kind of gets you loose. And Peterson not only able to save it, but also make a pass on Spencer Owens, entering 3 and clear him down the front stretch.
So move Peterson now up to the 12th position, trying to work his way back up into the top 10. He is the highest running of the drivers that came to pit road under that last caution. Next highest, I believe, would be the 53 of Jared Duda, who is just a couple of trucks behind him, currently in 14th place. And then you've got Justin Mons, Zachary Henry, Tony Manji, 16th through 18th. So that'd be your top 5 right now on the fresh tires. None of them have yet been able to work their way back up into the top 10, though.
I think, I mentioned that, Jared Duda gave him a kind of a reset when that last caution came out, and he was able to grab the tires and now be second on this strategy. That's pretty nice recovery to have a chance to get back in this after being involved in that first caution. He's looking to the inside of Spencer Owens here down the front stretch.
Like we may have had a pass further up for the 4th position. Jackson Sims making his way around Michael Sensi. So Sensi will drift back into the 5th position. And I've been keeping an eye here as well because Daniel Nanny looking in the rearview mirror, and it's Hunter Madalinas who is now in the runner-up spot with Ashton Lawson in 3rd. And we mentioned about the fact that there was a couple string of races starting with Watkins Glen that Hunter Madalinas would finish outside of the top 20. However, he had such a good start to the year, he didn't fall out of the top 10 in points. Last week seemed to get back to his consistent ways with a solid run at Indianapolis, and now something to build off of here for the defending champ, who is still looking to go to victory lane for the 2nd time here this season. His last victory was back at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, a guy that is kind of been notorious the last few seasons in this league of stringing along wins, going 2, 3, 4 in a row, and we know that Daniel Nanny is looking at that too. So that's something that maybe Madalinas wants to just like, hey, I'm the guy that usually wins multiple races in a row. Here's his chance to maybe start his own streak here for this season.
Yeah, it's interesting kind of looking at his stats at Pocono. We mentioned about Elliott Henderson being a 3-time winner here. If you look at the drivers that ran all 4 of the previous Pocono races, Madalinas has the 2nd best average finish at 6.8, so almost a guaranteed top 10 every time he comes here to the Tricky Triangle.
See here, this Woodall up on the outside as Spencer Owens looks to the inside. It's going to clear Lewis, and now Brittle going to look to the inside and not able to get there, and single file out. Woodall did a nice job of just running that outside lane. I thought he was going to get really close to the wall. He did, and not close enough to touch it, but that gave him a great run down the front stretch.
Peterson continues to work his way forward. He's put Elliott Henderson in the rearview mirror. He has now cracked the top 10 and now finds himself, was on the back bumper of Shane Nicewanger. Going to set him up for a pass for 9th heading down here into turn 2.
This is a spot here. Hoping that the other driver just kind of gives you the room, just so that way it's so easy if you race each other through the tunnel turn, you lose all your momentum, both drivers, and then that sets you up for the guy behind you to potentially race with you. And it's like, so a lot of times you kind of race into the tunnel turn. You can go in there side by side, but you're hoping that you sort it out, and the other driver give a little bit of give and take early on in these races. I think later in the race you'll see them, a little more door-to-door through that tunnel turn and battling it out to try to gain position.
Now you said fuel window 27 laps. We've just completed lap 27 here for the race leaders. Of course, we had those couple of cautions that they could have saved some fuel under, so just how much further can we push that window before they're going to have to come to pit road?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that ultimately like you said, there was a lot of cautions those first couple, so that maybe gets us another 4 or 5 laps that they can go here. So we'll have to see. I think that we're really closing in. We're only 5 or 6 laps away from halfway. So that will ultimately you're going to make your pit stop here. You're going to need to make another one if you're any of these drivers. So maybe just trying to go as far as they can, just knowing that right now they have the track position. It doesn't look like Peterson's going to be able to get up there, or any of these drivers with tires, to break up this top 6, top 5 before the pit stop. So ultimately holding on to their track position and hoping just to see when the next caution falls, if it does.
Sure, draft comes into play, but you look at a number of our front runners and the best lap that they put down so far in this race in comparison to the lap times they're turning right now, there's about 1.7, 1.8 seconds difference in said lap times. And if you kind of look at the drivers that fall under that blanket, you got about our top 4, maybe top 5 that are separated by 1.8 seconds. So you look at like a Jackson Sims or a Matthew Weeks in 4th and 5th position. Is there any benefit to maybe coming to pit road one lap earlier, getting that undercut with the fresh tires, and maybe, just maybe, if the delta works out for you, cycling up to the front?
I think it's worth the try for some of these drivers. And the other little thing is just like, I've seen races here at Pocono be won by you hitting pit road and the caution comes out while you're on pit road. You get the opportunity then. You get the opportunity to finish your pit stop, get back on track, and then watch everybody in front of you have to go do their pit stop under yellow, and it's kind of like hitting the jackpot. So I've seen people do that, and that's the other thing is, like, if you're able to maybe pit a lap before or a lap later than a majority of the drivers you're racing around, you never know. That could be a caution hits at the right time, and we've seen it. The pit stops are tough, so it's. You get drivers trying to get down to pit road and make a mistake. That's a good way to get a caution. I think I'm hearing a couple drivers already calling out that they might be pitting this lap.
Yeah, one of the things about Pocono that people kind of lose sight of is the scale of this racetrack, the length of it, 2.5 miles, similar to Indianapolis where we were at last week. It's one of those racetracks, depending on where you are in the field and the distance from you to the leader, where you can come down, you can make a 4-tire pit stop, you can leave pit road. Guess what? You're still on the tail end of the lead lap. A lot of other racetracks we go to, it's almost guaranteed you're going to go a lap down when you make a green flag pit stop.
And as we're closing in on the end of this run, I see both Madalinas and Lawson able to kind of close up on Daniel Nanny. Nanny's been running just a tenth or two slower the last couple laps, and then I see Lawson's been able to even be another tenth faster than Madalina. So he looked to the inside off of one there, but wasn't able to get alongside of him. But it's on the long run here, it seems Nanny this time at least has struggled a little bit late in the run, but it looks like maybe we're going to see them all come down pit road.
Yes, indeed. You got to get that thing woed down. Madalina's tail happy under braking as he tries to get it woed to pit road speed, and it's going to be feeding time at the zoo. A host of drivers diving onto pit lane here at the completion of lap 31.
Yeah, that was a huge save. I think Madalinas knew if he didn't get that thing stopped, it would have maybe ended his night and maybe even taken Daniel Nanny's chances of a win tonight.
I believe Madalinas missed his stall. I think he overshot. He was pulled in way too close there for them to be able to change those left side tires. That's going to cost him dearly. And could that have been those tires heating up from the lockup there at pit road entry?
Well, we saw that last week at Indy. He missed his pit stall just trying to slow down and get stopped. And I think that was even under yellow. So I think that's something that he's had some issues with lately. And I think it's just maybe a product of the truck and just forgetting sometimes you're on old tires, or like you were saying, tires that have just been heated up a bunch by coming down to pit road, and you got to get it stopped and in there straight. Otherwise, he lost a lot of time there and lost a bunch of track position.
It's the 53 of Jared Duda to pit road. Yeah, based off of what I'm seeing here. Caution! You set it up! You set it up, Ross. You knew. It's Rod Fast now around off the exit of turn number 3. Yellow flag out here in the middle of the green flag pit stop cycle.
Yeah, and that's basically going to let all these drivers that did hit pit road get right back in this here and have their opportunity to gain their track position right back. And I just was thinking that Jared Duda was one of those drivers that pitted on that caution and had the tires moving up through the field. And I thought this is him getting back in a situation where he can contend tonight. And then I just saw him on pit road and I was thinking that that's a little early for a guy that has tires. He can go another 5 to 10 laps with the likes of Peterson, Maggi, these guys that were, as we look at the 4 and see what happened here. He got the wall and then got hooked.
Oh, gosh. That is a huge hit in the inside wall.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, Jared Duda pitting there, I was like, well, it's almost switching from, if we're going two sides of the strategy here. He went from one strategy to the other, and he's one of the guys that's going to be able to get back, his track position here compared to these drivers that were running long. But yeah, the 4 hits the wall a ton. He's going to at least call it at least call it into the pits for the next few laps to work on a ton of damage.
Massive hit there with the front end of that race truck as he hit that with quite a high rate of speed. And Christian Peterson is going to cycle out to the front. We'll probably see him and the rest of these drivers come to pit lane. They were the ones that pit under the previous caution, but they gained the track position here when everybody else that stayed out under the 2 previous yellows all came to pit road. And it may not seem like it, but I think this is a big break for Hunter Madalinas as well, because I was going to mention just before that caution came out that he came down pit road in the 2nd position of that group of drivers that hit pit lane on the same lap. He came off pit road 12th of those drivers. Now, if you end up having a bad pit stop under caution, everybody is bunched up for a restart. So you've got an opportunity to maybe make those spots up a little bit quicker. When it's a green flag pit stop, things get awfully spread out. So it would have taken him a lot longer to pick those spots up. Now with this caution coming out, everybody's going to be bunched back up again. He might be able to get those spots back that he lost with that slide through his pit stall.
And I think we're seeing pretty much all those drivers hitting pit road here.
53 is back in, so question is, did he maybe not make the commitment line before the caution came out so he couldn't take service? Was pit road closed for him at that time?
Not sure, if that's just the timing of where he hit pit road there. We talked about Hunter Madalinas and his mistake on pit road. I just saw Christian Peterson slid through his pit box there on this pit stop here under yellow. So a guy that ultimately the caution came out in a bad time for these drivers that all had to pit, but he was the leader of this group and now lost a couple spots on pit road because he slid through his box and had to back up.
And we saw Christian Peterson cutting his way up through eventually into the top 10, but a lot of that was him having fresher tires than a bunch of the drivers ahead of him. Let's not forget that a lot of these drivers now that are back up at the front, like Nanny, Lawson, Matthew Weeks, Jackson Sims, it hasn't been 20 laps since they came to pit road. They were just on pit lane mere laps before that caution came out. As looking back there, it looks like pit road was open at the time there for the 53, so not exactly sure what the call was for him to come back down under the that lap of pacing there, but he's going to restart nonetheless back in the 27th spot.
Yeah, I think
Look here, you see the lights on? Yeah, the light green. He's crossed the commitment line, so he should have been able to take service here and then stay out under this caution period. Does he even pull into his pit stall, or does he pass right through? Oh, he does pull in, so... Oh, no, he doesn't. He does pass through there, so I don't know. Interesting.
So yeah, I must have thought that maybe he was worried that he'd get his tires, and you could see up on the off of turn 3 up there, you see the next pack coming. I imagine that could have potentially been maybe the lead line. No, that would have been... Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. He must have definitely thought there was a chance that he could take the 4 tires and lose a lap, and that obviously would potentially, throw away his opportunity to be able to race here now on the lead lap for this run. So I don't blame him for thinking, maybe I got to get back on track, but that's a scary situation when that caution comes out and you're on pit road. That's the first thing you think is like, okay, where's the leader? And you're hitting your buttons, looking at your relative, trying to figure out where the leader is just to make sure you can get your stop in and get back out. But typically under green you can here. So with a caution you would hope that it would have worked out for him, but he decided to play it safe and and now come down and get tires under this yellow and reset, pretty much in the back.
At a track like Pocono, pit road plays just as much a part into the eventual winner of the race as the racing on the track itself. And we've now crossed the halfway threshold, now into the second half of this race, the home stretch, if you will. We know everybody's still going to have to come to pit road at least one more time, and right now the projections would put that final pit stop within the 10 lap to go window should we go green the rest of the way. Pace truck makes the left-hand turn to pit road. Daniel Nanny will get us back under the green with Ashton Lawson on the front row with him. Everybody, for the most part, now on equal footing with tires.
And that caution timing and just how it all worked out gave Matthew Weeks a ton of track position. Even Jackson Sims up here on the outside of row 2. Weeks is going to go through the middle here and try to grab the lead. Kind of, we saw every restart tonight so far. Daniel Nanny did a great job tonight. Or this one, he kind of lost it, and he's going to lose the lead in a couple positions.
I don't know if he moved down there low, seeing the run that Matthew Weeks had, or if Matthew gave him a little bump, got him out of shape. But whatever the case may be, Nanny now he cycles back to around the 4th spot in a battle there with Jared Darling as Weeks slots to 3rd, Sims into 2nd, new leader 26 of Ashton Lawson. And remember back a few weeks ago at Watkins Glen, it was Ashton Lawson versus Daniel Nanny. It ultimately came down to that final pit stop as trouble in the back. That's Evan Snyder that's gone around. Was that Christian Peterson in the 71 collected up in the middle of it as well?
I think so.
I believe the points leader was in it.
Yeah, just looked off at 3. They were, you see 71 spinning back around. Doesn't look too bad, but I saw them, a couple drivers kind of get sucked into the wall off of 3, and that typically, means you're gonna really fly off of the wall. You kind of try to pull your truck off of it, try to keep from unsticking, and then everybody's so close together just after a restart here. I knew there was going to be at least some potential casualties in this one.
3 wide, Snyder bounces off the wall. Man, Josh Robin, 3rd incident he's been in the middle of. That's a big hit for James Shiflett in the 28. But this is the risk you run, right? When you make those mistakes on pit road, it puts you back in traffic, puts you back in the eye of the storm. And for Christian Peterson, that slide through his pit box during that pit stop under the last yellow puts him back in this perilous position.
Oh, I thought that I was about to give credit for Aiden DuPont. Well, I'll give him credit for the effort, but he was about to get through that, and just last second, kind of got clipped there. I feel bad for him. The guy was just about to get through that after seeing multiple trucks spinning off of the wall in front of him.
That was Nathan Jump we were on board with, and yeah, there's DuPont right there. Oh, just gets into the left rear quarter panel of Eric Kempf. And he noses it into the inside wall there. Almost had everything avoided. James Shiflett, as we mentioned, the 28 collected up in this one. So at least 5 trucks in this wreck. Varying levels of damage sustained, but boy, it just goes from bad to worse here for the points leader Christian Peterson. And now a driver that came into this race 5 points up in the points lead now is going to find himself at a bit of a deficit, at least when we go back green here. He's still got a little less than half this race to work with to get back up there, but Matthew Weeks, at least right now, the pendulum is turning in his favor in terms of momentum as he looks to get the points lead back. He lost it last week at Indianapolis when he was 1 point up on Christian Peterson going into that race.
We just talked about Weeks had the opportunity, even looked at grabbing the lead there off of turn 1. He's, you give him an opportunity being up near the front here to be able to, have a chance at this thing. He could, leave here with a maximum points day and try to, not only grab the lead, but give himself a little bit of a cushion during this couple week break here.
I wonder if we've got the opportunity here under this caution period to go back and look at that previous restart there, try and figure out what went on with the 30 of Daniel Nanny, because it was hard to tell from the initial angle looking down from turn 1 down the front straightaway. it almost looked like he moved to the left of his own fruition here, which makes me wonder if maybe he didn't want to be the lead truck here on this run to be able to save some fuel. I'm not sure. You see here's the run that Matthew Weeks get, and as he approaches, Daniel Nanny just turns to the left to let these guys on by.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the thought was there. If maybe he, thought something on the first run that he thought there was a, there's not any rule as far as leading laps. It doesn't, the only one that pays is the last one. So it's interesting to see that he decided to jump to the inside and definitely checked up before turn one, and a guy that nailed every other restart. So definitely was thinking strategy or something there. And it's given Lawson the lead, and Sims now is going to have the opportunity to restart up on the front row here.
We talked with him in Victory Lane at Michigan. Nanny's words, I wanted to save. When we talked to him last week at Indianapolis, he said, I wanted to save. So maybe now as we enter in the second half of this race, he's looking to save as well. I mean, consider this fact that if we end up going green the rest of the way from this point on, we're still around where these drivers would probably have to pit with less than 10 to go. Is there a scenario, do you think? We've obviously seen tire fall up, but is there a scenario where if you're coming down pit road and maybe only putting 5 to 6 laps of fuel in there, you may consider going with right sides only, maybe even consider not taking any tires at all?
Yeah, I guess that there's always an option for that. I was just thinking, if it goes green, a lot of these drivers, you're going to have really 30 laps at speed, and that's really basically taking 2 sets. If you get a second set on, throughout this run, that's splitting them up into 15 laps each. That's not a lot on a set of tires. I mean, you'd want to probably get closer to 20 or 25 on a full run. So I think that there might be some options there. I guess that would make me feel like if you're Nanny, you want to just go out there and lead this thing, keep control of it, and know that you're going to get tires anyways. But interesting strategy. I trust him. He's made it work in the last 3 weeks.
Ashton Lawson gonna put the field under green here at the completion of lap 40. He'll lead them into turn 1. Jackson Sims will slide to second. Nanny will be side by side with Matthew Weeks. That's going to be for third place. Good run into turn 1. Weeks will actually draw a bead on Sims for second place now.
Sims here is going to have the outside lane off of turn 1 and get away. Weeks is going to slot in front of Nanny there in third. Could be Jared Darling and Shane Neiswanger here battling it out for the 5th spot. Oh, Darling got the apron a little bit. Sent Neiswanger up.
Track. Look out! Everyone scatters to avoid. No, not going to be able to. Is Blair Neabone. Couple more going to get collected up there as well. I believe that was the 98 of Robin Durr. 45 Kirk Gibson as well. 64 of Neabone ramped up off of the left side of Jared Darling there.
Yeah, I thought that just clipping the apron and the tunnel turn is what I think happened here to really set this off, and ultimately bad angles exiting the corner for Neiswanger and Darling going side by side through there, and kind of bounced off one another, and that sent Darling back to the wall, and ultimately did a great job of just like knowing he's here he clipped the apron, gets in Neiswanger, and it looks like Elliott got in the back of him.
Oh man, 64 of Neabone. You see the right front lift up off the ground as he ramped off the side of Jared Darling. A hit there for the 98 of Robin Durr, and there were a couple of trucks that also made some contact as they were making their way by on the inside. I don't know if they kept it straight or not. So here's another look at it. They might have had it gathered up at this point, but then that little bit of contact in the left rear quarter panel redirects Jared Darling back up to the outside wall.
Yeah, and then Darling, when he got there, I don't know if it was by decision or just having no momentum. He wasn't really going anywhere. He just stayed where he was at, and unfortunately, it's just a bad spot when you come off of turn 2. All these drivers, you look at these guys, you're it wants to send you towards the wall, and now you're like, okay, where are they going? I don't really know. And man, Darling just pops up out of nowhere for the 45, and he gets a ton of damage, and gonna have to work on that one for a while.
Pretty good hit to the front end of his machine. Tough debut here for that 45 truck of Kurt Gibson. This is on board with Jared Darling. And there you see, right there, you can see as he gets, it's almost not as much the apron, it's when he gets those left sides on that paint line.
Yeah, don't think much. I said it's at the top of the show. I said precision in slow motion. It's like you feel like you're not going very fast, but you enter these corners just trying to be perfect, and it's like you if you're not perfect, and you can have moments like this. Nice job by Madalinas and Senzi getting through there, kind of just letting it play out around them and just driving through it once the opening happened there.
Yeah, a lot of drivers that were in the immediate vicinity did a great job of fanning out to avoid a few trucks that were towards the back, kind of maybe following the line of trucks in front of them, the holes closing up as they approached the scene. Take a look at this, just utilizing all that inside line. There was a hit to the inside wall there. Was that the 41 of Justin Mons, I do believe? I think that was the two trucks I was talking about that pulled low and might have made some contact. I think the 41 made a pancake the left-hand side into the inside wall, but in comparison to the hits a number of the other drivers took there in that wreck, that's maybe a small price to pay.
And this, the previous caution, I was thinking, man, we're really close to the window. If anybody did top off on that last caution, but this caution, we're there. And I think that I kind of felt like if you wanted to win this race, your best option is to hit on this caution. When I saw Ashton Lawson, Jackson Sims, they were up there, running first and second. Daniel Nanny, who's led a bunch tonight, they all came down and pitted here, got their 4 tires and fuel, and I think that I'm going to say it, that'll get you to the end. If we do go green, I think they'll make it no problem. Now, a lot of these drivers up near the front, looks like the top 11 are all staying out here, and I don't think they're going to be able to make it without, some big time saving. So I think these guys are probably hoping for another caution and just going to keep the track position here and hope that cautions fall where these drivers that just did pit will have to, settle for coming to get tires with these guys if the cautions fall at the right time.
Interesting, because look at a number of the drivers that are adopting this strategy here of staying out. You've got Matthew Weeks, Shane Neiswanger, Zachary Henry. You've got also the 7 of Hunter Madalinas, and a little ways back there, the 24 of Tony Mangi. What's interesting about this strategy, that's 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 8th in points. So you would think drivers that are maybe looking for the consistent run to build their points, keep themselves in the top 10 in the standings, they'd be coming to pit road here for the security of knowing they can reach the finish rather than going with an alternative strategy. So interesting that we end up having 50% of our top 10 in points taking this gamble.
Yeah, we had a lot of cautions that first run, so if you get another, we've had a couple now in this run, so the idea of potentially making it, there's still another, you have to go 4 laps farther than a lot of these drivers did their first run. That's a lot, because they obviously, you're gonna need another caution or 2 to get that far. So who knows? Maybe these guys think they can save. I just ran a couple laps to check the fuel mileage. Maybe they feel after a full run they can do it.
Matthew Weeks got his first Great Lakes Racing Truck Series victory back at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. He gets us back under the green here. Going to leave him stacked up for second place with Madalinas and Shane Neiswanger side by side into turn 1.
Yeah, this kind of gave new life to Hunter Madalinas. He's going to be back up into the second position here after that pit stop issue earlier. Neiswanger going to settle in third behind him.
We had a trio of drivers make their debuts here tonight for the season. Kurt Gibson on pit road along with, looks like Jared Darling, Evan Snyder, Rod Fastnell. A few of those drivers have called it a night out of the race, but the 54 of Justin Vandermarl having a great performance. He's been up in the top 10 most of the day, if not the top 5. He's holding down the 4th position, and not that far back either, just outside of the top 10. We saw him get a piece of the first incident tonight, but the 89 of Christopher Melton working his way back up here to the front as well. A couple of drivers having some pretty solid debuts this evening at Pocono.
And watching these drivers that made that last pit stop, it looked like one got really high there. Not sure who that was, but
that was Daniel Nanny.
Yeah, and Ashton Lawson's kind of leading this group moving forward, and yeah, obviously wanting to know that these drivers in front of you potentially might have to save or do something here to save their race. You want to go and try to gain some positions here, and he's on it so far.
Currently in the 11th position. Daniel Nanny trying to chase him. There's going to be some contact as he's shooting up the middle 3 wide. This is tight off of 3 with Jackson Sims to his outside, Lewis Woodall to his inside. He is all sorts of squirrely there off of 3 down the front straightaway.
Yeah, they all saved it and got through there. I thought Sims, just had the track position really looking good, and the race was playing out for him, but now and this, just been kind of stuck back here along with Nanny, just trying to get through this and get through this traffic with at least a little bit more fuel and maybe a little bit fresher tires. Not a ton, but ultimately drivers that were up near the front here just trying to work their way back through. And yeah, now it looks like Madalinas has grabbed the lead from Matthew Weeks.
He has indeed. So the defending champ out in front for the first time here tonight. Saw couple of laps ago, Jared Darling has returned to the racetrack, albeit 2 laps down, trying to salvage what he can in that number 1 truck. We've also got Blair Neabone back out there. Same for Robin Durd. They're 1 lap down each. And looks like Kurt Gibson has also gotten back on track. He is 5 laps down to the leaders. We've got 26 drivers on the lead lap here right now, as Madalina's going to try and open up a gap here to Matthew Weeks. And now, for these guys here that are more than likely going to have to come to pit road at the close of this race, if we don't get a caution, if they don't get the benefit of a yellow flag, and all those other drivers that came to pit road are able to make it the rest scheduled distance, what are we doing right now? Are we trying to put down Q laps and open up as big a gap as we can back to the Ashton Lawson, Daniel Nanny area of the field?
I think you're wanting to build a lead for sure, and just making sure that you got the best option of when you do pit. This looks like Eric Kepfier and Lewis Woodall are gonna pit. They're in the window, so they know if they're not gonna be able to make it, they might as well pit. This is just when I was talking about winning the jackpot. You never know when a caution comes out here potentially, or potentially just getting tires now and getting away from the pack. I like it. Do something different. I always love drivers that are willing to try something different and won't rip them for any bad finish if they went and tried something.
And doing it early on in this run is smart too, instead of waiting a little bit longer when the field's spread out, with the risk that you may end up falling a lap down to the race leaders. So we'll see if this pans out, if they can time a lucky yellow. Eric Kemp there and Lewis Woodall is slightly different lines there through turn 3. Way up the racetrack was Matthew Weeks, maybe trying to generate a run here down the front straightaway. You can see visibly closing up. He was about 5 truck lengths off the back of Madeline's when they exited 3. He's now about 1.5 entering into turn 1.
And just listening in on the drivers, I don't think there's much saving going on here. I think Madalinas, I was thinking about, okay, Matthew Weeks is a guy that we've seen so many times this year be so great late in the run. Older tires, he's been able to save his tires and then make his move later in the run on a lot of these drivers. Madalinas, I was thinking, short run, long run, good at them all. So I don't know. At some point there may be cross pass here. It looks like Weeks is closing in on Madalinas. Madalinas even maybe just grabbed the wall a little bit there. But ultimately, going to close up here and try to stay with him, the 7 and the 56.
Tony Manji trying to get to the left rear there of Vandermarl for 4th place. Had a nice exit out of turn 3, but now has to tuck back in line. A little further back, you see stepping out, that was the 53 of Jared Duda. Remember, we ended up seeing him, the timing of a yellow coming out. He was on pit road, elected not to take service, and restarted all the way back in the 28th position. He has since, after playing the strategy of staying out, made his way back up into the top 10 in the 9th position, but he is the furthest back of the drivers that is going to encounter the fresh tires in his rearview mirror is Ashton Lawson, about 0.3 of a second off of his back bumper.
And looking at Manji working on Van der Marel here into 3, and right behind him, Nathan Jump, Zach Henry. Jump was, had those issues earlier, pitting with when pit road was closed, and able to cycle back up here right on the edge of getting into the top 5.
Madalenas there, running all the way down towards the bottom of the racetrack on the front straightaway. He's been seeing just what we've been seeing, how Matthew Weeks has been able to get a nice toe down the front straightaway and almost pull up to his back bumper to turn 1. Is moving far left there, is trying to break the draft, not allow that 56 to get a toe on him down the front straightaway. We'll see if Matthew Weeks maybe follows him, if Madalenas plays that exact same line off of 3 this time.
Yeah, it's kind of just hold your position through the tunnel turn. We'll see what they do. Looks like Madalena's going to go closer to the bottom here, where Weeks is going to use the outside. He should have a run down this front stretch. Not sure if he might be a little too far back to do anything going into 1.
Niswonger continues to hold down the 3rd position. We've documented a real good, consistent season for him, as here comes Melton to pit road. This would have been, I believe, from either the 11th or 12th position, just outside of the top 10. Regularly scheduled pit stop for him to be able to make it the rest of the way, coming to 17 to go.
Yeah, and you think about it, if you're any of these drivers that are pitting now, with 17 laps to go, if you got a caution, a lot of these drivers out here are all going to come down pit road, and you're probably going to cycle to the lead. Even if you have a little bit of laps on your tires, you're going to have a couple laps under caution. You're going to be, pretty close to less than 10 laps to go and have a chance to be leading this thing. So I think some of these drivers, if you want to gamble, you might want to come down and get those tires now in hopes that you can potentially cycle the lead if a caution comes out.
Getting racy up here inside of what would now be the top 5, as this is the 5th position under contest. Tony Manji and Nathan Jump. I mentioned these two had some contact last week. We ended up seeing Nathan Jump be a hard pass when they would come around to lap him, specifically that 24. Now they find themselves door to door here at Pocono. Both drivers on the same strategy, and looks like that outside line got the better launch down off the tunnel turn. Jump will move into the 5th position. Now he'll cross over to the inside, look for 4th on Van der Marel.
Yeah, Jump is slowly moving up here, making a couple nice moves to, I said, he was on the outside of the top 5, got to 5th, and now looking for 4th into 3. I think he's going to do it here.
To clear up here on corner exit, not quite able to do it. Van der Marel will stay to his right rear quarter panel, and now going to be a 2-truck tandem on the top side there. A good bubble push from that 24 will keep Van der Marel out in 4th, and now Manji going to crowd jump as they make their way in that battle for 5th into turn 1.
So frustrating when you jump. You had the 54 almost clear, and now you're lost that position and potentially more, as Manji now has the draft of Van der Marel and able to maybe get clear here. Jump's going to try to stay to the inside into the tunnel turn.
We've been at a number of tracks here lately, Michigan, Indianapolis, that we consider momentum tracks. If you're going to make a pass, you better be sure you complete it. Otherwise, you may be in the process of trying to gain 1 spot and end up giving 2 spots back, as we see Jump continuing to battle. Now Zachary Henry looking on, trying to see which lane's going to move. He's maybe going to be a difference maker down the front straightaway. Who does he align with? Kind of almost aligns with both. Straddles that white hash mark here. A little half draft for the 11, a little half draft for the 24, keeping them stacked up side by side.
And Zach Henry just watching these two here, hoping to get them both. Gonna run the outside lane here and try to close up on the side-by-side battle. They're doing a great job. We talked about the issues last week, and now Manji gets clear, but racing clean, racing straight up, and ultimately being able to race side by side, really almost for 2 straight laps there. That was a great battle. I know if you're jump, you're probably frustrated. You had the chance to get all the way up to 4th, but got to reset here and try to get back going.
Battle for the lead is going on in 2 different areas of the racetrack. Here at the front of the field with Hunter Madalinas and Matthew Weeks. But I've been keeping an eye as well back there. 9th place on back. Ashton Lawson, Daniel Nanny, Jackson Sims. Drivers that we know can make it the rest of the way on fuel. That last time by, only 0.4 of a second separating those top 3.
I think that front runners here are hoping for a caution at the right time, but I think you're also in a spot where if you come down and pit, the caution's going to fall. It's still going to help you. So they're really just hoping for the yellow, I think. If meanwhile, I see, Ashton Lawson is basically, he was, able to get away from Nanny and Sims originally, and now Nanny and Sims have kind of closed back up as Lawson's working on the 53 Aduda here, and it's going to bring Nanny right up to the back bumper.
He's going to actually shove that 53, try and keep him ahead of Ashton Lawson. And you talk about a lot of these drivers are relying on a caution. You see a couple of, I think someone just dove onto pit road there. That was Matthew Weeks in the 56 from 2nd place. I was going to ask you about the timing of that caution. Where do you want it to be? Do you want it to happen here before your pit stop takes place, so that way you can keep your track position and more than likely everybody that even pit under the last caution will come down pit road with you? Or do you want it to come out after you've made your pit stop, so that way when everybody comes to pit road, if you're still in the lead lap, you cycle up to the front of the field that way?
Yeah, I think your goal, and I see Weeks here as he's making his pit stop, you're hoping the caution comes out right now. Right as you're leaving pit road, before you even use your tires. Ooh, Madalina's running all by himself, got the wall a little bit out of the tunnel turn. He's got a couple second lead now just because of Weeks pitting, but it'll be interesting to see. Maybe just trying to get everything he can in this lap to make sure that he can race Weeks. If he does make a pit stop, he's going to stay on track. As we see Nicewanger, Vandermarl, they're pitting back at the top of the screen there.
From what would have been 2nd and 3rd place. Was 3rd and 4th before Matthew Weeks dove onto pit road. Looks like Matthew Durr in the 18 has also made the dive onto pit lane. So we start to compile the list of drivers that still need to come down. Looks like about a half dozen drivers would still have to make a pit stop at this point in time. Madalinas, Tony Mangi, Nathan Jump, Zachary Henry, and Jared Duda. About 8 laps difference between when the other drivers under the previous caution came to pit road to the drivers that are coming to pit lane right here, right now. I'm looking at it here. I mean, this is about anywhere 24 to 27 laps. Are we sure that those drivers that pit under the last caution can make it?
Yeah, I think you can. And maybe the only thing that would stop them is if they potentially were going all out this whole run. Maybe that potentially puts you really close. But yeah, I think I see Nanny was able to get around Lawson. He's going to work on Zach Henry here. I'm not sure if I'm trying to see if there's any of these drivers that pitted on that lap 42 yellow that also have now pitted again. If so, then that's maybe some of these drivers that feel that they can't make it. But I said that's right on the window. I think they're good. If anything, I was even thinking a guy like Jared Duda could maybe even stretch. He came in just a couple laps before these drivers that maybe he could stretch it here. We'll see. It looks like Nathan Jump inherited the lead. He's going to be pitting in front of Nanny and going to give Nanny the lead if the 30 is going to stay on track.
Yeah, we know the 11 and the 12 are going to be having to come in. Here comes Jump and Henry right on cue. Looks like, to your point, Jared Duda is going to stay out a little bit longer. May be able to make it the rest of the way. We'll have to wait and find out. But that now cycles the lead back to the 3-time winner, Daniel Nanny. Lawson into second, about 4 or 5 truck lengths back. And then Jackson Sims all over his back bumper, looking for the runner-up spot. Look at how this cycles some names that we really haven't talked a whole lot about here today up into the top 10. Elliot Henderson now in the 5th position. How about Aiden DuPont now up in 7th place? Good comeback for him. We saw the slide and save for Hunter Brittle in the early going back in turn 2. He's up in the 8th spot. And our Daytona winner, Spencer Owens, looking for another top 10 run as he's in 9th.
Yeah, great run for some of these drivers, able to capitalize on that pit stop and get back to this up into the top 10 here. So now it's just a matter of, can these guys, 10 laps, still a long way to go yet. Can these drivers that all pitted on lap 42, we see Jared Duda is the only driver here in the top 10 that hasn't, that can't, okay, I got something here. I just jumped into the cockpit of Daniel Nanny, and he's definitely clutching it in entering turn 1. So I think that he's definitely close. So yeah, these guys are going to maybe be close here. I think it's interesting for him to be able to drive up again. I hear the engine turned off into the tunnel turn.
And we obviously see, looking back at Ashton Lawson, Jackson Sims, they're not really closing up on him despite him saving. Part of that could be the dirty air he's putting down the nose of the 26. Also could be, though, that Ashton Lawson is also in save mode, and he might be trying to save just a little bit more than the driver in front of him.
Yeah, meanwhile, look at all these drivers. They all pitted on lap 42. Elliot Henderson back in 5th, pitted on lap 43, so he must have came down and topped off on that caution, so maybe has a little bit more wiggle room than these guys, but a couple seconds back here. See now with Lawson, if he try to listen in here and see if he's clutching it at all. Not in the tunnel turn, at least. Trying to stay with the 30 truck and Nanny.
Nanny getting those left sides down there on the apron. Got a little loose up off the tunnel turn. See a little bit of sparks flaring off of that right rear, making a little bit of contact with the safer barrier on the entry of the corner. A couple of interesting battles of those drivers that came to pit road. Matthew Weeks was all over the back bumper of Hunter Madalinas when he made the early dive onto pit lane. He's now cycled out ahead of Madalinas by nearly 5 seconds, so that shows what the difference of those fresh tires are, and maybe not as much a bearing in the outcome of this race, but maybe into what the storyline looks like for the points battle when we resume this season in 3 weeks' time. Matthew Weeks currently tracking about 4.5 seconds behind 12 seconds behind Christian Peterson. He was 16 seconds back a couple of laps ago. Peterson is damaged. He is off the pace, but he's in that window with the drivers that maybe can make it the rest of the way. The question is here, with 7 laps to go and ticking off about 2 seconds every lap, can Matthew Weeks get up there, maybe bypass Christian Peterson for a position on the track, and make it about 5 points difference between those two going into Martinsville?
I was going to say, Weeks the best of one side of the coin, and Peterson the worst on the other side of the coin, and that's the side of the coin that's up right now. So yeah, it's working out for Peterson to even gain points, at least a position on Weeks right now. And yeah, it's these guys are just hoping for a caution that second half of this field right now, hoping that they can get back in this with a late yellow.
Looking at the lap times here of the top 3, 57.3 for Daniel Nanny, 57.2 for Ashton Lawson, 57.1 for Jackson Sims. Now, of course, being the 3rd truck in line, he's getting the benefit of the draft on these straightaways, so that would play into his lap time, but you can visibly see the gap is closing up from the 26 to the 30, and he's bringing the 6 along with him.
On that one green flag run, we did see Daniel Nanny just kind of trail off at the end, so maybe a track that he's not been able to figure out as far as saving tires, and it's given Lawson and Sims an opportunity here. I'll tell you, I've been listening to Lawson. He is downshifting in the corners, trying to gain ground. He is, if they're close on fuel, he doesn't know that he's going to be close on fuel. He's using it up, trying to get to Nanny here, I think.
4.5 laps to go here through the tunnel turn. Daniel Nanny trying to use every bit of racetrack that he can here. Try and generate that speed down the straightaways to keep Lawson and Sims at bay. Still about 3 truck lengths back to Lawson, another truck length back to Jackson Sims. There'll be 4 to go this time. There is a truck up ahead. That is the 45 of Kurt Gibson. If they encounter him in the last couple of laps, depending on where it is, that's going to be a clean air advantage that the 30 will be without, at least for a spell.
And down in turn 3, that last lap, Nanny was clutching it again, so definitely still trying to save. It might be even just making sure. I don't know if you get a caution, do you consider staying out if you have to do a green-white checker? Maybe it's just saving to make it, you know, an extra little insurance just in case. But anyway, listening in on Sims through 1 and 2, neither corner was he clutching it. Looks like both Lawson and Sims getting the wall a little bit off of 2.
I'm also wondering here as well for Daniel Nanny throwing in the clutch. I mean, the pace may have backed down enough here. All these drivers up here at the front now about to turn their 25th lap on these tires. The pace may have backed down enough that you can throw in the clutch and still carry enough speed through the center of the corner to make it possible to it, just in case you're not sure you can make it on fuel. It kind of affords you that luxury.
Yeah, we saw even on Sunday in the real life Pocono how, you know, slowing down, saving fuel actually made them go faster. So it's,
yeah,
you know, it's potential. You know, it sometimes even uses up, especially a track like Pocono where it's, you know, a very slow corner. You clutch it pretty far out and coast into the corner, and next thing you know, you're entering the corner way faster than you would using the brakes, and you're using up a little bit more tire too. So jumping back with Nanny in the last 2 corners, clutching it still, and he's been able to get away. And this whole lap, every corner he's clutched it. Entering 3 there, he just did it again. So able to get a little bit of a gap now on Lawson. It's just a matter of can they make it. 2 laps to go.
Beauty of Pocono when it comes to strategy, the timing of the yellows, everything that comes into play. Kind of showing here where you always have to stick it out. Your fortunes may turn. Josh Robin was involved in 3 cautions here today, 2 of them off the final corner. He's right now in position to get the final spot inside of the top 10. Who would have thought that 20 laps into this race?
Yeah, up and down day for a lot of these drivers, especially just playing the strategy. But Lawson's closed back up now on Nanny. I don't know if we'll see here. It'll
be the white flag this time by. This is the lap to set him up if you're Ashton Lawson, if you're going to have anything for him for the final 2.5 miles. As here we come off of turn number 3. Both trucks sliding the back end there on the corner exit. White flag in the air. 1 more lap to go. Daniel Nanny looking for an unprecedented 4th win in a row on the season.
Lawson was a 10th faster that last lap. Nanny is still using the clutch, entering 1, and Lawson is there. He's going to have a chance here. I think he's going to have an opportunity. Maybe in 3, we'll see if they can get through the tunnel turn.
He drove it deep into 1, closed up the gap, but then got tight through the center. He'll look to get that momentum here into 2. Backs the corner up a little bit to maybe get back to the throttle on exit. Let's watch the gap. A truck length. Does it close up anymore? Looks stationary, at least for the moment. Here we go into pivotal turn 3. Sends it in. Does he put the bumper to him to move him out of the way? He's into him, trying to get him loose. Nanny's truck stays planted. Here we come off the final corner. Daniel Nanny's gonna hang on. He's gonna pick up the victory here tonight in the Darkhorse Motorsports 175.
What a great finish. Nice job by Lawson to give Nanny at least a little bump and make sure that he had to work for it off of 4. But yeah, nice job. And I think Nanny he shut it off after he hit the start finish line, and he is coasting the rest of the way. I don't know if he's out or what, but I think it sounded like maybe the 53 of Jared Duda. We talked about him not being able to make it or be a little bit less than these drivers. He maybe ran out. James Shiflett with a little bit lost a couple seconds there, and fell back to 12th. So he's, you know, maybe was on fumes, but a lot of these drivers coasting this cool down lap.
Bunch of drivers right on the number, able to at least cross the start-finish line. May have cost them a couple of positions there from turn 3 to the front straightaway. But Daniel Nanny, I wonder, was shutting the truck off there when he crossed the start-finish line. Might be trying to save enough fuel to be able to have some burnouts here on the front straightaway. As looks like Michael Sensi going to offer a little bit of an assistance here around the racetrack. Make sure he at least gets back to the start-finish line. We talked about the different configurations last week that Daniel Nanny has been able to go to victory lane at. He kicked things off at Watkins Glen road course. We then go to the 2 Mile Speedway of Michigan last week, the low high speed banked Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 2.5 miles in length, and then here the 3-corner 2.5 miler at Pocono. And for a point, Daniel Nanny wasn't out in front in clean air. He had to be in that tooth and nail battle back outside of the top 10 with Ashton Lawson and Jackson Sims to set up for this battle in the closing stages.
I think he just got the push from Sensi so he could get back to the front straight and do some donuts, but now maybe he's out.
Okay.
He might be out. Well,
we got a half
maybe got her fired back up. Maybe we have to chat with him.
There's life. Some life. Let's see if we can dial him up here after a tremendous victory this evening. Daniel, it's Ross and Seth up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. You got a copy, my friend?
Yes, sir.
What a tremendous run you have been on. 4 straight trips to victory lane. You now add Pocono to your resume here this season. Hard-fought victory. We can see the worn-out bumper there after Ashton Lawson giving you a little something to think about there in turn 3, but Ross was riding on board with you. He was checking in, kept saying you were throwing in the clutch. Just how close were you in making it to the finish here?
I ran out of fuel as soon as I crossed the start finish line.
Wow.
I was clutching that entire run, hoping to make it. And it didn't really help that I didn't have any draft in front of me, but thankfully I made it.
Yeah, obviously a lot of things to worry about there in the closing stages. Then not only do you have to keep an eye on your fuel, but then there's the question, do the guys behind me have enough fuel to make it? What kind of runs are they able to get? Now you, for the most part of this race, were able to experience that clean air, but in what eventually ended up being the battle for the race lead and the race victory, you had to deal with that in traffic. Just how important was clean air, especially with the maneuverability here at Pocono?
Yeah, I mean, having clean air is just a huge advantage, especially when the setup is tight. You really want that clean air, and yeah, throughout the entire race, especially that first run, I was extremely tight, and even in clean air I was tight. So if I was behind people, especially during this last run saving fuel, I would have not won this race. So I knew I had to get past the 24, I think it was, of Lawson, and I had to make sure that I was able to keep him behind me as I was trying to save fuel. I knew he was saving fuel, so I knew I had to save fuel, and thankfully all worked out in the end.
Incredible run you've been on here. 4th straight trip to victory lane. You're able to conquer the tricky triangle here tonight at Pocono. Congratulations on the job well done, keeping in it the entire race. And before we let you get back to your celebrating and have your pit crew push that truck to victory lane, floor is yours for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, I gotta give a huge shout out to all the admins of Great Lakes Racing for letting me, come in here. And I mean, I wasn't planning on winning all these races, but I guess that's the way how it's gonna be. But thank you to Elliot and all those admins for allowing me to come back in and just have some fun. Like I said, I was on a part-time gig, so I believe the next race is at Martinsville, so I won't be there for these next few races. So next race, you're gonna see somebody new in Victory Lane. I'm pretty sure the viewers will appreciate that. And of course, I gotta give a huge shout out to the broadcast booth for putting on these amazing broadcasts. And it's, it's always fun rewatching these races, especially the last 4 races. So thank you guys so much. And yeah, that's about it.
Pocono never disappoints with its surprising finishes, and a great run here tonight puts Daniel Nanny in victory lane for the 4th time this season. Congratulations. Go enjoy this victory. Go celebrate. And well done on a 4-peater.
Thank you guys so much.
Daniel Nanny, your winner here tonight in the Darkhorse Motorsports 175. Ross, I think you've got 2nd place.
Ashton, you got a copy?
I do.
Hey, Ashton, you had a chance there at the end. We thought it a great battle between you and Daniel Nanny there on the final laps as you both were. It sounds like both were running out of fuel, at least are getting close. But what did you need in the end to potentially win this race and get that last little tenth that you were looking for?
I needed about half a lap more fuel. That's it. I mean, I had 0.1 of a lap left when I hit the line, so if I would be able to burn that extra bit off on the second to last lap, there's no doubt I would have passed him. I felt so much better than he did on the long run, so I needed that extra little bit of fuel.
When you're working off of that last restart there and moving through the field, but also knowing that you have to potentially save fuel, what's your strategy there? Are you saving fuel early, saving fuel throughout? Are you trying to get track position, then start saving later? What was kind of your strategy on that last run?
A few laps in, I started looking at the fuel numbers and saving fuel here and there, but I was just hoping to stay behind Duda and just follow him around for the longest time because I knew they were all short by 5 or so laps. So I wasn't concerned about them. But then I went to make a move on him and almost felt like he tried extra hard to defend. And then when Daniel got to him, he just let him go. So I think I kind of got the shaft there. I don't know if there was a deal worked out, but got the shaft there, and that kind of set me behind the 8 ball for the end of the race.
It was a great battle ultimately in the end, and no, it's disappointing to come up second for you, but we had fun watching and seeing you two on the edge towards the end there, trying to save the fuel, but also put down the lap time and finish 1-2 here in the end. So we appreciate that. We'll give you a chance to use this time to thank you to any sponsors or any shout outs to anyone that's watching.
I just want to thank everybody at NorCal this year. It's been a fun year. And Buzz and Brews Barbershop here in the Tampa Bay local area for coming aboard this season.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashton. We'll talk to you down the road.
All righty. Have a good one.
And let's see if we can get a hold of 3rd place finisher here tonight, Jackson Sims. Jackson's the guys up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, you net your 4th top 5 on the season, your first finish in the podium, and it couldn't come at a better time as you're hovering just below that 10th in the standings cut line. Now, we asked it of the top 2. You were turning some of the fastest lap times of the top 3 in the closing stages. How close were you on fuel?
I couldn't even make it to turn 1. So it was kind of really, really close. So that was fun having to deal with the fuel strategy and the chess match of us 3 up front when you're gonna go, when you're gonna save, and all that.
So you talk about that chess match, and it really culminated when you guys were back around the 13th through 15th position, making your way through traffic, knowing that the drivers ahead of you were going to have to come to pit road, kind of in a sense setting yourself up for the positioning in the closing stage of this race. How difficult was it to balance not only saving the fuel, but also trying to make sure you stayed in touch with each other, making your way through traffic?
Yeah, it was really hard. You kind of didn't know if, maybe you thought you saw one of those guys go, and then you're thinking, oh, they gave up on trying to make it, and they're just going to run it out and hope for a yellow. But then, you never really knew, so you were trying to hold on to them and then see what your mileage was like. So it was interesting to say the least.
You've put together a really solid season here, as mentioned, coming into this race. I believe you were 13th in points coming into this one. Solid points day for you. Going to get you up there in the conversation with this couple of off weeks coming up here in preparation to potentially defend a spot inside of the top 10. How important was it to get this run here to a night to be able to establish that momentum, as we'll be essentially, when we come back in 3 weeks, running the home stretch to the postseason?
Yeah, it's a good run for sure. It's with the playoffs only being 10 spots and the guys, I feel like anybody first through 15th in points. It's all playoff quality, probably more than that. So it was really, really hard, really tough field, especially because I missed a race early in the year. That doesn't help, but I mean, just not necessarily trying to win every race. Just, my goal has always been, top 10, good, top 5, great. So just rack up top 5s and top 10s and the points will sort itself out.
Big picture racing, we talk about it all the time, especially with this playoff system here in the Great Lakes Truck Series, and definitely doing that here tonight. Solid outing, bringing it home inside of the top 3 in the 3rd position. Barely able to make it on fuel there as well, made it exciting at the end. Congratulations on the great run here tonight. Jackson, before we let you go, we'll open it up to you for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, thanks to you guys for putting the broadcast on, and thanks to everybody that's out watching it at home.
Jackson Sims, your 3rd place finisher here tonight at Pocono Raceway. Congratulations on that great run. Enjoy the off weeks here in preparation for Martinsville in a few weeks' time.
Thank you. See you guys.
So as Daniel Nanny continues his celebration down in victory lane, let's take a look at what the points are as a result of this one, and it's going to be just as close leaving as it was coming in. It was 5-point separation from Peterson to Matthew Weeks coming into this race. Peterson's going to gain 1 point because, as you mentioned, he was kind of the last of those that could make it on fuel. Matthew Weeks was the first of those that had to come to pit road. They finished 13th and 14th respectively.
And ultimately, going to keep this battle close, which we didn't think was potentially going to happen after we saw Peterson have his issues earlier on in this race. I think Elliott Henderson able to get back and get a decent finish towards the end here after being on that strategy of stretching the fuel, and looks like he jumps Zach Henry here for 3rd. So it's ultimately a pretty close battle. We heard these drivers just talking about the points battle is it's tough. It's all these drivers are top 10 quality, and even the guys beyond this top 10 are fast enough and good enough to be able to score the points to get there. So it's gonna be fun to watch it through the rest of the summer and see who can get into that top 10.
Yeah, Peterson, Weeks, Owens, Madalinas, all former winners on the season, but it's not a win-in-your-in system. So in these upcoming final few races, you'll be hearing us talk a lot about drivers and their relation to the cut line. A lot of drivers will be looking to build a cushion to maybe lock themselves in on points before we even get to the regular season finale at Auto Club Speedway. Let's take a look at the finishing results from this one here. We just talked with our top 3 finishers here this evening. A solid top 5 run for Michael Sensi. He was a top 5 truck all night long. He qualified well, he ran well, he kind of got cycled back there during the pit stops, but fought his way back up to bring it home solidly in the 4th position, right where he started. Elliott Henderson, 3-time winner here, going to bring it home in 5th. He had to pass 13 trucks to do so. Aiden DuPont, we saw him caught up in one of the incidents off of turn 3. Great comeback for him to get 6th. Hunter Brittle, he was slideways in one of the cautions. He's going to come back for a 7th place run. Spencer Owens will finish in 8th. How about 16 spots gained there for Brent Kingcott, and that moved him to 10th in the points leaving here this weekend. And Josh Robin, what more can you say about the comeback run he had? Involved in at least 3 of the cautions we had here today, still brings it home in a top 10 finishing position.
I just was looking at the top 10, and you had Sims, Senzi, DuPont, Brittle all getting their best finish of the season tonight. So we talked about it, a lot of those drivers in that top 10 able to get up there and get a decent finish and really maybe even turn their seasons around or start scoring some points. So great for these guys that got the top 10. Beyond the top 10, we have 11th here, Nicholas Caressel. James Shiflett, we talked about maybe running on fumes and a couple seconds back there in the end, finishing 12th. We just mentioned Christian Peterson, Matthew Weeks, the points battle, finishing 13th and 14th here, even though to be one point difference in their position, the story between those two positions is so crazy different, which is kind of interesting to think about. Madalinas comes home in 15th after his early struggles. Ultimately, just being on this other strategy has really taken all these drivers that maybe had a chance at a great run and put them back in the mid pack. Jared Duda, we saw his issues earlier in the race. Justin Vandermarl making his first start. Ultimately 17th. I think he'd be a little disappointed in that, but ultimately kept it clean and great. Hopefully we have a new driver to see battle these guys up in the top 10. But some of the other drivers that were running up near the front most of the night, but just on this strategy, Manji in 18th, Zach Henry in 19th, and Shane Neiswanger rounds out the top 20.
A lot of those drivers you see from about 14th on down would have maybe finished top 10, top 15. Continuing down this list, had a timely caution flown. Matthew Durr had a strong truck, finishes in 21st. Nathan Jump going to finish back in 22nd. It's been a tough couple of weeks for that 11. Christopher Melton, he was looking like he was going to have a good run his debut, but the green flag pit stop cycle puts him back to 23rd. Eric Kemp, Lewis Woodall completing the top 25. They were the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. Justin Munns and Robin Durr will finish a lap down each in 26th and 27th. Kurt Gibson's debut ends 5 laps down in 28th. Jared Darling in 29th. And Blair Neabone will finish in the 30th position. I believe they were the last drivers to finish under power. 2 drivers finished out of the race in 31st and 32nd, that being Evan Snyder and Rod Fastenau. Well, Pocono is in the books. A couple of off weeks coming up here before drivers gear up for the paperclip short track known as Martinsville. Gonna be an interesting racetrack to kind of set us up for the home stretch before we eventually head to the Atlanta Motor Speedway, Worldwide Technology Raceway, Texas, Phoenix, and Auto Club to set up the 10 drivers that will battle for this championship. Some tough racetracks coming up here, some fast racetracks, some technical racetracks, but we're going to be using these trucks up, I feel, when we end up getting to that very congested, heavy braking, flat banked paperclip track of Martinsville.
Yeah, it's going to take a couple weeks here to plan it out. If any of these drivers have their looks at what Martinsville's going to be and get ready for that, because it tends to be a lot of bent fenders and hurt feelings, and we'll see probably a lot of that when we return in mid-July.
Yep, so mark your calendars. July 15th is when the season will resume here for the 11th season of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. Until then, congratulations to Daniel Nanny. He is now a 4-time winner here in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series, 4 in a row, as he takes the checkered flag here tonight on fumes at the Darkhorse Motorsports 175 at Pocono. Thank you all for joining us here on your Tuesday evening. For Ross Brockman, my broadcast colleague, Jeff Johnson, our producer, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys in 3 weeks' time as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of Split Second Broadcasting.